she has now been upgraded to a Flagrant 2. So basically, all they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her, and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation does not happen. And Sophie Cunningham, in fairness, did instigate a brawl.
Everyone missed the real story. While analysts debated slow-mo replays and commentators clutched their pearls, Marina Mabrey basically said, forget basketball, I'm entering my villain era. 1 second she's playing defense, the next she's reenacting an action movie mid-Carter with enough flair to earn a Netflix series. Now the league's calling it a Flagrant 2 and talking suspensions like it's Survivor WNBA edition. But was it a meltdown or a masterclass in chaos? Buckle up, because this meltdown makes your Monday morning coffee spill look tame.
She said Marina Mabrey's technical foul from the Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a Flagrant 2, the league told ESPN. A Flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine.
Everyone wants to talk about Marina Mabrey like she just woke up, chose violence, and body slammed someone for sport. But let's back up. If you watched the game, actually watched the game, not just skimmed a Twitter highlight while waiting for your iced latte, you saw it. The refs took 10 full minutes, which in basketball time is practically an entire Netflix episode, to look at the footage and somehow come to the conclusion that nothing flagrant happened. 10 minutes, that's not a review, that's a group meditation session gone wrong.
So I went through Marina Mabrey's comments the other day, and this is something that I'm really passionate about letting athletes know about this shit, because I think you get really encouraged by your fans, trying to tell you to go back at the trolls and shit like that. I think you guys are welcoming it way too much. And Marina Mabrey, I'm sure she had a lot of fans. I was one of her fans. I really loved her as a player until all of that shit happened. To me, that, I'm a ball player. That shit, you don't do that shit, man. It's just the way it happened. Shit like that would never happen in the men's league. You would never see a dude in the league getting his eye poked out and, him having his hand over his eye and then somebody just come hit check him or just, sneak him on some sucker shit. To me, that's like some coward shit.
Now here's the kicker. What everyone else with 2 eyeballs saw was a clear Flagrant 2, not Flagrant 1. Not a warning, not a friendly handshake, a textbook Flagrant 2. Mabrey got launched at. Like the kind of hit you expect in an NFL playoff game, not on a basketball court filled with athletes who usually settle beefs with a stare down or maybe a mild shoulder bump.
All she sees is her opportunity to get her lick on Caitlin Clark. All she sees is her opportunity to say, Caitlin Clark, how dare you come in this league and steal my shine? How dare you? Marina Mabrey took her shot.
But no, not in the WNBA. Here, when someone gets bulldozed in slow motion with full elbow extension and a side of emotional damage, the refs respond like your grandma trying to reset the Wi-Fi. Confused, indecisive, and ultimately completely useless. They huddled, squinted at the replay like it was the Zapruder film, and emerged with a verdict that belongs in the Hall of Shame.
The officiating in this league makes the NFL officials look good. That is crazy that entire sentence just rolled out of my mouth, because the NFL officials are so bad that a lot of people think the game is rigged or scripted. By the way, I've seen that about the WNBA as of late too. Are the officials trying to navigate games in certain directions?
This wasn't even a borderline call. It was crystal clear. Marina Mabrey assaulted Caitlin on national TV, and the refs looked at it like, maybe she fell into the hit? Maybe gravity did it? Maybe the refs are operating under some new quantum physics model where Newton's laws don't apply in the paint?
And let me tell y'all something, man. The WNBA need to cut this shit out, man. They need to cut this shit out immediately, man. That girl, whatever the hell her name is, I'm gonna call her Jane Doe. That's how much pub she get on this channel. Jane Doe. Jane Doe was fouling Caitlin Clark all goddamn night, bruh. Hitting her all in the face, smacking her all in her face, man. It's okay to play tough defense, man. But fouling, this ain't rugby, bruh. This ain't, this not that, bro. It's not that.
Now let's talk about this magical lack of accountability. The NFL has a command center. An actual room where adults look at replays, make decisions, and override the occasional field clownery. The NBA has one. The NHL has one. Heck, even college football refs have a hotline to phone a friend. But the WNBA? Nah, we're still trusting 3 humans on the floor who clearly left their common sense in the locker room. And don't tell me the ref squad did their best. Their best apparently includes missing open hand swipes, ignoring intentional collisions, and rewatching the same clip for 10 minutes before deciding that yes, maybe Marina's face simply chose to violently meet an elbow. Self-inflicted, clearly. This is where we demand the commissioner show up. And not in a press release or some diplomatic non-apology on a podcast. We're talking full accountability. Bring the Sophie and JC Sheldon into the commissioner's office. Now, if you didn't see the moment, JC came flying down the court like she had a personal vendetta. And who'd she target? Sophie Cunningham, on purpose. Not a basketball move, not a defensive setup, a straight-up drive-by with attitude. At this point, I'm shocked JC didn't bring acrylics for the game because she spent the entire night clawing at Caitlin Clark like it was an episode of Real Housewives WNBA edition. She went after Caitlin, she went after Sophie, and when someone finally gave it back, cue the tears, cue the drama, cue the refs suddenly discovering their empathy module.
It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition. So I started talking to the officials in the first quarter, and we knew this was going to happen. You could tell it was going to happen. So they got to get control of it. They got to be better. They got to be better.
So Sophie was trying to hold on to her, still had a good grip on her, pulls her down, but it looked like Sheldon was kind of doing a tad bit too much, man. Doing a tad bit too much. Ends up falling, and now we're going at it. Look at this. Now we're going at it. Sophie was waiting on it. Now, I thought the chat was playing when they told me Sophie had a black belt.
So back to the office. Picture it. Sophie and JC are dragged into Kathy Engelbert's office. The door shuts. The walls tremble. You hear muffled yelling, the sound of someone flipping through outdated rulebooks. Maybe a chair gets thrown. Then silence. 5 minutes pass. 10 minutes. Who walks out? That's your new commissioner, Hunger Games protocol. Let's be honest, that's the only leadership restructuring that'll get us results. Because clearly, Kathy isn't watching the same league the rest of us are. The league where players have to police themselves because the refs are either asleep or auditioning for a job with the WWE. Maybe Kathy thought this whole NBA commissioner gig was going to be all brunches and photo ops. Sorry, sis, you're in the middle of basketball's Game of Thrones. Time to start acting like it. But instead, we get silence. Or worse, we get the league punishing Mabery like she's the problem. Like she just woke up mid-game and decided, you know what? I'm going to commit a felony in the third quarter. Meanwhile, Sheldon's been out here auditioning for Mortal Kombat since tip-off and gets zero blowback. How is that justice? At this point, Marina should be given a medal, not a suspension. For restraint. For not dragging half the court into the locker room by their ponytails. For enduring 10 minutes of bureaucratic nonsense while 3 blind mice in stripes debated if physics still exist.
What's the right number of teams? I don't think it should be more than 16. Like, how do you know what the right number is?
I think you're right, Bill. You don't want to degrade the quality of the game by bringing in too many teams too fast. That's why people thought, like, my first thing I should have done is when I came in was expansion. And I said, no, we've got a lot of transformation of the business model, the economic model. We got to build confidence in this league, bring investment into this league and capital, get our owners all on the same page. And so that's what we've done. And now it's time to expand, which you're going to see the Valkyries this year out.
You want the league to grow? Start with basic officiating. Call the obvious plays. Penalize the correct player. Don't flip the rules depending on who's got the hotter press coverage. Because right now, it's looking less like professional basketball and more like playground politics with matching jerseys. And you know the worst part? The fans see through it. All of it. The favoritism, the make it up as we go officiating, the pretend Nemo stance when a player gets decked on live TV. There are middle school referees who've handled dodgeball disputes with more clarity than the WNBA officiating crew. At this rate, we should install a command center. Not just for game oversight, but for fan sanity. Let's bring in NASA. Let's get a team of scientists to determine whether that elbow traveled at assault speed. At least someone would reach the right conclusion without needing 10 minutes of interpretive dance huddles. And can we talk about the timing? Mabrey goes off, stands up for herself, and suddenly the narrative is, she's unhinged. Really? That's the label now? Meanwhile, Sheldon could physically attach herself to someone's leg and the commentators would call it passionate defense. What rulebook is this? Did they borrow it from Hogwarts? Here's what should happen. Official investigation. Refs suspended for forgetting how eyes work. A public apology from the league. And Kathy? Kathy gets locked in a room with a remote and a slow motion replay. She doesn't leave until she can tell the difference between a high five and a haymaker.
You won't come out and speak against the abuse that Caitlin Clark has taken and will continue to take until you do something. Until you do something, Kathy Engelbert, this is on your head.
And if she still can't, then maybe it's time to let Sophie and Sheldon fight for the throne Game of Zone style. Whoever wins gets to rewrite the rulebook and install a command center with real-time correction powers, because clearly letting humans operate with no backup in high-stakes games leads to this mess. But until then, strap in. Because if this is the new standard, then get ready for more late-night soap operas disguised as basketball games. And don't worry about the rules, they're more like suggestions now, especially if you're on the wrong team wearing the wrong jersey, or daring to stand up for yourself when the elbows fly. Welcome to the WNBA, where justice is optional, but drama is guaranteed. So let's push this disaster into its final flaming conclusion. Where exactly do we draw the line between competitive play and courtroom-worthy assault? Because apparently, in the WNBA, that line is as blurry as the league's commitment to consistent refereeing. Imagine training your whole life, perfecting your craft, putting your body on the line every night, only to get told through a 10-minute huddle of befuddled officials that your bruised ribs and near decapitation don't meet the very specific criteria for concern. Meanwhile, someone breathes too hard in the direction of a fan favorite, and suddenly it's a war crime. Let's not pretend this is about rules anymore. It's about optics. Who's marketable, who's trending, who has the league's PR machine conveniently ready to spin their misfires into misunderstood heroics. Players like Mabery, who bring grit, raw edge, and actual emotion, get treated like they've hijacked the team plane. They don't fit the soft focus commercial mold, so when they respond like actual human beings, frustrated, emotional, fed up, it's weaponized against them.
Never seen a technical upgraded to a flagrant 2 before. I've never seen that happening before. Like, it wasn't even called a flagrant 1, it was a tech upgraded to a flagrant 2. And obviously, nobody getting suspended is the right thing. Nobody getting suspended. These dumbasses are going to say Sophie deserves to be suspended. Like, if you suspend one, you suspend both.
You can almost hear the corporate gears turning behind the scenes. How do we protect the brand? Newsflash, the brand is suffering because your product, the game, looks like it's being managed by cartoon mascots flipping a coin at every foul. When a player gets blatantly targeted and no one in stripes responds, that's not an oversight. That's complicity dressed up in polyester and pretending to whistle for fairness. And what about the young fans watching all of this? What do they learn? That standing up for yourself is dangerous? That speaking out equals punishment? That some players are protected while others are disposable? Great message for the next generation. Let's raise a whole crop of athletes who know that merit means less than marketing, and justice bends depending on jersey color and social media metrics. If this league had any intention of evolving past the niche crowd and onto the main stage, they'd start with the basics. Accountability, transparency, and rules that don't feel like they were scribbled on a napkin during a brunch date. How are we still letting 3 people on the court, clearly overwhelmed and possibly navigating a sugar crash, make the final call in moments that affect careers, reputations, and futures? It's insulting, really. To the players, to the coaches, to every viewer with at least one working eyeball. When fans at home can make a better judgment from their couch with a grainy feed than officials can in high-definition slow motion surrounded by a replay center, it's time to admit the system's broken beyond a simple patch.
This because if Marina Mabrey's foul during the game was called a flagrant 2, like it was upgraded to, then she would have been ejected during the game. And I don't think any of this stuff with Sophie and JC would have happened at the end of the game if the refs would have gotten control of the game much earlier on. And I do think if they would have ejected Marina Mabrey during that whole play when she completely blindsided Caitlin, it wasn't a basketball play, it was after the whistle. If she would have been ejected at that point in time, I think it would have set the tone for the rest of the game.
There needs to be a reckoning, not a politely worded memo, not a slap on the wrist training video about improving court awareness. A reckoning. One where people in charge are held to the same standard as the athletes they constantly scrutinized. Where referees are evaluated in public, where league execs don't get to hide behind press releases, and where players aren't villainized for having the audacity to defend themselves against glorified tackling. Because as long as the current circus continues, the WNBA can forget about expansion, forget about legitimacy, and definitely forget about respect. You don't earn loyalty by gaslighting your audience and hanging your talent out to dry. You earn it by being real, being fair, and most importantly, admitting when you screwed up. And trust us, this one wasn't just a screw-up. It was an epic implosion of competence, sealed with a whistle and broadcast for all to see. The only thing left now is whether the league decides to learn or to double down on delusion. And that's the tragicomedy of it all. A league that claims to be growing, yet can't get the basics right. Like calling a foul when someone gets bulldozed. Until the WNBA stops protecting egos and starts protecting players, expect more chaos, more drama, and fewer people taking it seriously. Because when the refs need a GPS to find common sense and the league treats accountability like a contagious disease, everyone loses, especially the game. Fix it, or just rename the whole thing Whistleball powered by confusion. Either way, the fans are watching, and they're not buying the nonsense anymore.